The engines are loud, but the silence in your headset is louder. You're in the lead, Russian BMP, nose pointed into what the map calls a soft seam between Ukrainian brigades. The battalion commander's voice just came through. Push. On both flanks, T-72s rumble forward. Gunners scanning, dismounts tense. The road looks open. The tree lines look empty. The artillery behind you has been pounding this grid for an hour. You're told the defense is thin, the line is cracking, and today is the day you punch through. 30 vehicles nose into the gap like a steel herd, and in minutes, most of that herd will be burning. Not because of a single miracle weapon, but because you've driven into an invisible machine. Drones you can't shake, mines you didn't see get planted, coordinates flowing to artillery and HIMARS before your driver even finishes his next gear shift. There's no safe direction. Brake and you get bracketed. Gun it and you hit a road that was open 5 minutes ago and is now seeded with teeth. The trap doesn't spring. It closes like a jaw that was already there. Here's the reveal. Ukraine's new kill zone isn't a place, it's an operating system. In several sectors, Ukrainian unmanned systems and fires have turned the 20 to 25 kilometers in front of their trenches into a vehicle dead zone, while infantry movements are choked to within roughly a kilometer of the line. It's not a myth. Around Kupyansk, reporting described a wall of FPV drones reaching up to 25 kilometers from the combat line, with Ukrainian operators destroying as many as 88% of attacking forces before they even reached prepared positions. When you hear kill zone, don't think World War I belts of wire and machine guns. Think of a grid that starts on the satellite feed long before the first shell falls. We've seen what happens when Russian armor tries to surge through. In one Pokrovsk area assault, 30 vehicles rolled in. 24 never rolled back out, erased in about 100 minutes by a layered kill chain. FPV drones on the flanks, javelins waiting in the folds, counter batteries smothering the guns that dared to unmask, and precision rockets chewing on the rear echelons. Donetsk area attempts have died even faster. 18 armoured vehicles knocked out in under 3 hours by wave after wave of FPVs. Those aren't one-offs, they are the new pattern. And the pattern has a name, an evolved doctrine that ties reconnaissance, remote mining, FPV strike teams, pre-sighted artillery, and HIMARS into a command loop measured in seconds, not minutes. How does it actually work? Let's run the tape on a single assault and slow it down. First contact isn't a gunshot, it's a camera. Recon drones, Leleka, Mavic, the usual suspects, are already up and watching the crossroads you're approaching and the patchwork of tracks you'll try when it gets hot. They've seen your rear column massing at the tree line. They note that your short-range air defense is 3 vehicles back from the point, not 1. That goes in the stack. A controller passes a grid. Another flags the alternate path you'll take when the lead vehicle inevitably maneuvers. The grid becomes a push notification for people holding transmitters, tablets, and a box of flying warheads. Before you even enter their effective small arms range, the roads ahead of you have changed. Remote mining drones slip out from low cloud. A quadcopter buzzes the verge and quietly drops PTM-1s and TM-62s on the routes your driver thinks he discovered. A ground robot, yes, a land drone, trundles 30 meters off the road to salt the ditch line you'll use when you panic. Ukraine has tested these ground systems on deep runs, delivering stacks of anti-tank mines over 20 kilometers to an objective. The point isn't to blow you up here, it's to make every safe detour lethal 10 minutes from now. Then the trap sets its fangs. FPV pilots wait for the lead to crest a small rise. 2 drones dive. One takes the front sprocket of the point tank. The other jams under the track skirt and cooks the idler. The column lurches to a halt as the trail vehicle, trying to reverse and cover, eats a third FPV coming in grass low from the 9 o'clock. Lead and tail killed or immobilized. The herd is now a line of confused steel. This is where the old war would tell you to dismount and push the infantry forward. Except the old war doesn't have a buzzing hive overhead. Your dismounts try to get out, but the moment they spread, 5, then 7, then even a dozen FPV drones take numbers and come screaming in on the same target, a tactic Ukrainian operators near Kupyansk described as routine. There's no poetry to it, just geometry and video, a lot of video. Your platoon leader calls for smoke, the tree line ahead pops with grenades, the road grays out, and nothing about that matters to the drones. They've already marked your turret shapes, your heat signatures, the exact places where your air defense just opened up. Through the smoke, a javelin arcs from a low fold and rips into the second tank in column, one that tried to angle out to the right and ran into a fresh scatter of mines laid by a drone 5 minutes earlier. You're still in the lead, BMP, and you finally see it. The road you intended to use has been shaped against you. Those open lanes were mapped as death corridors yesterday. Artillery starts to fall not on the trench ahead, but on you, right here, because you're in the kill box. Pre-sighted tubes throw airburst and cluster at the vehicles that bunched up after the FPV hits. Every pause is a bracket. Every attempt to pull left scrapes a mine or walks into a second line of plotted fire. A minute later, the HIMARS call goes through, not for the trench, for the rear. The battery that just spoke, a grid. The Tor or Pantsir that switched on to SWAT drones, another grid. The ammo truck that turned off its headlights 2 kilometers back, a grid with a rocket riding it. When artillery and HIMARS become the hammer, the drones are the eyes and the hand. This is the insanely powerful part. Not a single silver bullet, but the integration that makes every move you make the wrong one. Zoom out a beat. This isn't magic, it's a forced design choice. Around Kupyansk, a Ukrainian unit known as Orion turned a sector into a robot-dense wall that denied maneuver at distance, and did it with a formula: persistent recon, FPV swarms at the exact point of friction, and remote mining that steals mobility before a tank crew knows they've lost it. As one Orion officer put it, the goal wasn't to kill everything, it was to take away the enemy's ability to move and gain a foothold. If an assault can't gain a foothold, it can't assault. That's when the math gets dark. Reports from that sector cited as many as 88% of attackers neutralized before they reached intended positions, and Russian movement compressed to within roughly 1 kilometer, because any further and vehicles start dying where they drive. Inside the steel, it feels like this. You hear a zzz, like a giant angry mosquito, and the driver dips the nose. The commander shouts, "Right," you go right. There's a thump under the road wheel and a metallic scream. The track throws. Comms fill with 2 words over and over. Drones, drones. The smoke you popped is behind you now. Ahead is a BMP coughing black and a tank turret sitting at a 3 o'clock angle that no gunner sets on purpose. Your gunner spots a flash in the tree line and squeezes, but the autocannon chews dirt because the fire control is jittering, the stabilizer's off after you hit the mine, and there's another mosquito coming from low left. You don't see the controller's thumb on the stick, the micro corrections on a video feed, the way they pick your road wheel or your optics like a surgeon. You only feel the warhead arrive. You try to reverse. The road behind is now a scattering of discs that didn't exist 15 minutes ago. Your trail vehicle stops, then lifts on one side and slaps down hard. That wasn't an artillery hit. That was a road that changed mid-battle. Your commander calls for the battery. The battery answers with silence. They're under counter-battery fire themselves, targeted through their own muzzle flashes and relay chatter. You can't see the trench yet. The trench isn't the point. The kill zone starts 5, 10, or even 20 kilometers before the trenches. That's the lesson. Why is armor so vulnerable now? Because armored thrusts built for speed and shock have become predictable lines on a live map. Any vehicle moving in the open isn't just visible, it's targetable in seconds. Mavic-class drones don't just watch, they queue. FPVs don't just hit, they shape. Remote mining doesn't just deny, it funnels, channeling columns into pre-sighted kill lanes where every meter is registered. The main obstacle isn't the berm, it's the invisible geometry you enter the moment you cross a phase line. Independent assessments have already noted that in some sectors, Ukraine can prevent vehicle use within 20 to 25 kilometers of the front. And Kyiv's goal is to scale that denial across entire theaters. And it's scaling because the inputs are scaling. Ukraine isn't just flying drones, it's industrializing them. Leadership has made it explicit. Unmanned systems are now designed to carry the bulk of the kill. President Zelensky underscored that drones were responsible for roughly 80% of destroyed Russian targets over a recent period, and Kyiv stood up a verified strike record system that incentivizes units, tracks outcomes, and pours the best gear into the best hands. The points for kills marketplace Mikhailo Fedorov helped pioneer isn't a gimmick. It's a feedback loop that makes the swarm bigger and smarter each month, and the losses heavier. When those numbers translate to tens of thousands of Russian soldiers neutralized per month, you're looking at a strategy that aims to make large mechanized offensives not just costly, but impossible. If you're thinking, okay, but what about heavy artillery and smart munitions? Do they still matter? The answer is yes, more than ever, because they plug into the grid. Pre-sighted 155mm batteries slam the pauses the drones create. Sub-munition carriers that hunt from above, think bonus shells scanning for turret shapes and punching top armor, turn bottlenecked columns into scrapyards faster than smoke can bloom. The kill zone isn't anti-tank missiles versus tanks. It's a relay race where drones hand off targets to guns, guns force movement back into drones, and precision rockets erase the logistics and air defense that try to restore order. Let's go back to Pokrovsk, because repeating the numbers makes the point stick. 30 vehicles in about 100 minutes, 24 were destroyed. Why so fast? Because the first 10 minutes belonged to FPVs and mines, and the next 90 belonged to artillery on a captive audience. In Donetsk, 18 vehicles were gone in under 3 hours, most during the chaos window between column trapped and command post realizes it has to abort. These aren't freak ambushes, they're the breakthrough ritual, meeting a machine built to punish rituals. Meanwhile, near Kupyansk, the model keeps paying out. Ukrainian sources described an Orion-built drone wall up to 25 kilometers deep that simply denies vehicle movement. Think about the human piece. A captured Russian guide, call sign Beganok, told how his squads tried to thread that wall 3 times. Each time, the drones found them. Each time, the men he guided were gone. He survived by surrendering to a drone. If you need a single line to explain how the war changed, it's this: the kill zone can accept your surrender. What does all of this mean for future Russian offensives? First, they get shorter. If a brigade can be cut to pieces within the approach phase, your assault isn't a day, it's a morning. Second, they get bloodier. If up to 88% of attacking forces can be destroyed before they touch the trench line, the casualty slope isn't linear, it's a cliff. Third, they get smaller. Commanders, learning the shape of the trap, split assaults into packets too small to break anything. But smaller groups mean less shock and more attrition. And attrition is the one fight Russia can't automate away. The knock-on effect is equipment quality. Every 24 of 30 event accelerates the drawdown from modern T-90 variants toward older, more brittle hulls dragged out of storage. And brittle hulls do very poorly in a battle space where the top attack and track kill are the default blows. Russia's answer so far has been predictable. More electronic warfare, more air defense, and more artillery. EW can dull some FPVs. Air defense can SWAT some Recon. Artillery can pound the suspected control nodes. But integration beats patches. The Ukrainian system is redundant by design. Kill chains don't rely on a single drone type, a single frequency, or a single vantage point. Take away one sensor, and another is already on station. Jam the FPV, a loiterer cues the guns. Kill the battery, a HIMARS packet wipes the counter-battery radar that exposed itself to do it. The adaptation race favors the side turning each small fix into data for the next hour's strikes, not the next year's doctrine. That's why the math looks the way it does in Kupyansk. That's why the line 20 to 25 kilometers vehicle dead zone is not a threat. It's an operating parameter. Here's the meta point, because this isn't just about Ukraine. The blueprint on display is 21st century anti-armor warfare. The decisive effect didn't come from adding one new weapon. It came from knitting cheap eyes to precise fists through a command network that rewards speed and proof. If you're building a modern defense, the lesson is, Make the kill zone start before the enemy thinks the battle starts. If you're planning a mechanized offensive, the lesson is, assume the approach march is the battle, and design your force to fight inside a hurricane of quadcopters without collapsing into a conga line of victims. There's room for a little gallows humor here, because the war invented it. In 2022, smoke was an answer. In 2025, smoke is a special effect. In 2022, move fast was a doctrine. In 2025, move fast is how you find every preloaded mine. In 2022, you worried about the berm in front of you. In 2025, you should worry about the satellite watching you decide which berm you like. If that feels unfair, welcome to a world where the camera is a weapon and the algorithm has very strong opinions about your route. Back inside the column, the last act plays out. Your battalion commander finally says the word you needed an hour ago: abort. But abort doesn't mean back out. It means reverse through a road that isn't the road you used, with vehicles that are no longer vehicles so much as obstacles. The drone that watched you enter now watches you try to leave. The artillery that was pre-sighted for the forward direction is also pre-sighted for the rear. The HIMARS packet that cleaned up your rear air defense clears its firing table for what's left of your ammo resupply. The map says you have options. The kill zone says you don't. This is why the Russians keep losing columns in minutes to hours. This is why assaults that look strong on paper dissolve before the first trench comes into view. And this is why Ukrainian planners talk openly about making entire axes unfriendly to vehicles at 20 to 25 kilometers depth, with ISW-style assessments even floating targets beyond 50 kilometers if drone and fires production keeps scaling. Replication is underway. Reports have already described the kill zone concept expanding beyond Kupyansk into Pokrovsk and Dobropilia sectors, with the same combination of drone saturation and artillery pressure applied in both directions of the line. One more zoom out. The integrated kill zone is not a wartime gimmick. It's a doctrine built on cheap abundance, fast C2, and ruthless verification. That verification matters. In Ukraine's system, every strike is recorded and graded. Units that prove effects get first dibs on better gear. The result is a swarm that gets deadlier as it succeeds, a self-reinforcing cycle that the leadership openly intends to scale until Russian large-scale offensives become arithmetic errors. If drones can eliminate more than 4 out of 5 validated targets in a month, and if the state is willing to feed that machine with millions of airframes and thousands of trained operators, you don't counter it with one jamming truck or a thicker glacis. You counter it with an entirely different way of fighting. Russia hasn't found that way. Ukraine already has. The conclusion is brutal and simple, and that's why it's powerful. When Russian armor launches a breakthrough, it is no longer driving toward a line. It is driving into a plan. The mystery of why whole columns vanish in under an hour isn't a mystery at all. It's the visible result of a layered, integrated kill zone designed to erase the very concept of mechanized momentum. 24 of the 30 vehicles were destroyed in about 100 minutes. 18 vehicles were crushed in under 3 hours. Up to 88% of the attackers stopped before they reached the trench. Repeat those numbers until they sound boring. They are the new math of this war. And if you're sitting in that lead BMP again, looking at an open road that isn't open, remember, the only joke this battlefield still allows: the shortest way through a wall is a door. Ukraine's new kill zone politely removed all the doors. The rest is just fire.